Hi, and welcome back to Ride All the Bikes. This video is a part 3 in my series on my bike commute to work from my home in the Indian Hills neighborhood of North Little Rock to the campus of Pulaski Technical College, which is a ride of about 7.5 miles, give or take, a tenth of a mile or so. So in this third part of my trip, I start out at the end of the Levy bike trail, and right now you can see me riding under the I-40 overpass. And we're coming down here to a spot where I'm going to make a right turn over some railroad tracks. These tracks can be an issue for me because usually at least once or twice a week there'll be a train stopped here that will keep me from taking the shortcut, and I have to ride down to the intersection where there's some traffic lights and make more of a squared off turn to get back on this sidewalk that I'm on, especially when I'm coming home. I don't run into trains as often in the morning on my commute into work, but it happens every once in a while. And it adds not that much mileage to my trip, but it certainly adds time because I usually have to wait through one or two red lights. And so, we're talking an extra 4 or 5 minutes. Not a lot of time, but still. So here I'm getting ready to make a right turn, and this is a fairly busy road in the early morning. A lot of people are driving down here to get onto the interstate to drive into Little Rock or drive somewhere else. And so here you can see me. I've stopped and I'm waiting for traffic here to cross the street. Sometimes I have to wait several minutes. Today, I believe, was fairly quick. Only a few cars were in the way. What we're looking at is a used car lot right across the street. So I'm still waiting for a clear shot to get across. And again, my only other option here is to go down another almost half a mile to a traffic light. And while the crossing at the light may be a little bit safer, a lot of times it's really not, since there aren't any bike lanes or anything. And sometimes it's easier just to wait for traffic to clear here and cross. So here I go. I'm going to cross the street. There's the railroad tracks I was talking about. And this is some really rough road right here. One time I was actually carrying my coffee in my water bottle cage, and it shook so hard that it actually came out of my cage, and I had to stop and turn around and pick it up and put it back in the cage before I continued on. So this is a little cut through going up to the intersection of Pershing Avenue and Pike and MacArthur. Pike ends right here and MacArthur starts. And I'll have to make another cross, not at a light. Again, really just because there aren't any good bike lanes or anything for me to be in. I'd have to take the lane if I wanted to use the light. So instead, when I get to the top of this little hill here, I'm going to just make a jog through a gas station parking lot before I continue on up what's called Scenic Hill. So we'll watch here as I move up this hill. You'll see there's a little bit of pedestrian traffic here. In the 4 days a week that I make this trip, I almost never see anybody walking, and today I passed what, 4 or 5 people, which is kind of crazy. All right, so I'm getting close to the intersection now. You can see the traffic lights straight ahead. They're really to my left. And I'm going to make kind of a sharp right jog here into a parking lot. You can see the gas station across the street. And I'm going to maneuver out of the street and get into the parking lot, make it a little bit easier to cross this road. This is very, very busy in the morning. People coming off I-40, coming into North Little Rock, use this intersection quite a bit. And so there's quite a bit of traffic. If I'm making this trip on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I usually have to wait quite a long time before I can cross the street because I'm crossing about 8:30 or so. Now, if on Monday and Wednesdays, when I come in a little bit later, I usually don't have to wait quite so long. So I don't actually remember how long it took me on this trip, so let's just see. So that last intersection and this intersection are really the only two dangerous parts. No, dangerous isn't quite the right word. The only two parts where I really have to contend with traffic at all. So I consider that, pretty fortunate on my part. So here I'm crossing now. And then I'm going to very carefully make my way through this parking lot. It's funny, parking lots are interesting, not because the cars are going so fast, but especially in this part of town, nobody is looking for someone on a bicycle riding through the parking lot, so I have to be very, very careful. So I'm going to go around the pumps here, and then I'll get on the sidewalk just for a bit, and then I'm going to begin to head up, actually on a bike lane, up Scenic Hill, which is my last little part of the trip before I get to campus. So here I am getting on the sidewalk. The road I'm, the road I'm about to get on is called Scenic Hill, and that's the name of the neighborhood. Actually, the road is the Scenic Drive, but the neighborhood's called Scenic Hill. And it's a fairly steep road. I don't know the exact grade, but from here up to when you see me reach campus, which is pretty much a steady uphill with a couple of leveled out parts, I gain about a few hundred feet of elevation in about a mile, maybe a little bit more than that. So here I am on the bike lane. And now, interestingly, I also take the same bike lane coming home, even though this is a one-way road. So I believe it was Bike Snob NYC who said, or the first time I heard the term salmoning, and that's what I do. I'll ride down against traffic on this bike lane because it's really the only safest place for me, or the safest place for me to ride. But safer than my other options, which are just to get on a road that doesn't have a sharrow or a bike path, or I'm sorry, a bike lane or anything else. So I'd rather go against traffic. I never pass more than one or two cars in the afternoon coming up the hill when I'm going back down. So from here, it's really just climbing up the hill, and then I'm going to wind through the Scenic Hill neighborhood, several houses, and then we'll come into several apartment complexes. And then at the end of this will be the Pulaski Tech campus. So I'll sit back and just let you enjoy my ride. I'll jump in to say that in this section there is a little bit of relief from the climb, a little bit of level areas, and that's good because the only time I ever work up a sweat on this whole commute into work is in this section that I just have been through. And we'll see how things go when the weather starts warming up quite a bit. I do have an e-bike I can ride if I need to. I'd like to avoid that, only because I am using my bike commute for some exercise, and I'll, of course, get less exercise if I can pedal assist my way up this hill. But also, I'm not sure I can arrive at work just being a complete ball of sweat, as I don't have a convenient shower to use. There is one, but it's over in the theater department, and it would be kind of a lot of effort and work on my part to use it. But I have been offered it, so maybe we'll see. Seeing that, seeing that stop sign made me think about the fact that I didn't know until recently that Arkansas has Idaho stop rules for cyclists so that I can roll through stop signs and not be breaking the law. I still have to stop at red lights, but I can roll through stop signs. So my version of roll through means I'm going to slow down at least a little bit, at least tap my brake, and be sure to look in both directions before I keep going. So I'm rolling up on campus now. So that finishes up my bike commute. It takes me about 40 minutes to get there, sometimes a couple minutes less. If I have to divert around a train or if I miss all the traffic lights and there's bad traffic, 42 or 43 minutes. But it's a great ride. I enjoy it. It starts my day off great every single time I do it. And I highly recommend those of you who can to ride your bike to work when you're able to. So if you're here at the end, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And in my next video about bike commuting, I'm going to talk about the economics of bike commuting and the kind of money that I save when I ride my bike to work instead of driving my truck. Thanks, and see you in the next video.